Hi, I'm Jim. Welcome to the Unbound Performance Podcast, where we explore the world of sports and performance mindset training.
And I'm Caroline. Each week, we talk about the strategies, habits, and mental framework that help us to excel. Let's get into today's episode. Just a little Q&A with Jim and Caroline.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's something you thought made you mentally tough at the time, but now you realize it didn't?
If I have
It's like I've never
anything
been
like
not
that.
mentally tough.
No, that's not the case at all. I don't know that I.
Like a specific thing.
I think there are plenty of examples where I tried something that should work, and for whatever reason, I didn't get it to work.
Yeah, I don't know if like mentally tough is the right goal with this one, but I felt like a lot of times when I was younger, I would try to view like a tough opponent like villain's the wrong word, but like, and maybe it's just like a girl catty thing, but like someone I really like, I didn't like her because she was a tough competitor, not just like I didn't like that it was a challenge, but I would put it on the person, not on the activity, and that like that don't think that made I thought that was making me mentally tough, but I realized that that was not a helpful angle to view tough competition.
Yeah, I know that's.
Like we tend to hate I mean, I think our biggest competitor. Like, oh well, she's so or like, oh well, she's so good, but she does this. Like, that's just wasted energy that doesn't help you.
Yeah, like I would like. What would you expect them to do? But try hard and
Right.
try to beat you. Like
Right.
that's
Well, then
their
why does
job.
them being competitive make them a bad person?
Right.
Like, isn't that the point of sport? Like, I think that was
Yeah.
just trying to make it turn them into some sort of
I know
making it personal.
at one point, one of the schools that we would kind of often meet in the state finals, they did not like us. We were viewed as the enemy for sure.
Oh yeah.
And I just, I wanted to do everything I could to break through that. So I just didn't like it. And I was more evolved as a coach by that point, I guess. But I remember I had written a note to their head coach after a
After we
landmark.
beat them 1 year.
No. After a landmark career achievement, and
For you or for the coach?
for the
Oh.
other coach. Like,
I don't know.
and
I'm just writing to let you know.
I just said how much I respected that person and admired them and congratulated them on fabulous
Because why not?
career to that point. Well, we're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to do the same thing, and that's not only the winning part, but teach kids, help them learn and grow, and pursue excellence. With everything they have. And we became friends, and I became friends with her husband. Like it was great. I was really.
You did it.
It meant a lot. Well, it just meant a lot to me because I really had great admiration for her.
I often find, and again, maybe this is a female thing, but it's very common for me, and I know other people as well, because I've shared this experience, but to think, like, come across someone that you think you either dislike or that you aren't going to get along with or that you just don't see eye to eye. And then once you sit down and actually have the conversation, like, you end up being very similar and find great things in common and become really good friends. I think oftentimes people who are very similar kind of butt heads at the beginning. It's like two opposite sides of the magnet, or same sides, whatever is the one that fights each other. And then you're like, oh, I have some people described it as like me and this other girl, very like type A kind of control freakish type personalities. But she was like, it's like when the two of you are in a room together, it's like your pheromones just push each other off, and we almost had this like, I didn't dislike her, but we had this like, I'm not gonna get in your zone, you don't get in my zone, because it's too many big personalities. And I mean, it was never spoken of. It was just sort of like we could just tell that wasn't gonna be. But the reality is, like, we're very similar and we have a lot in common, so it shouldn't be something where we don't mingle, because it
and that's
doesn't have to be problematic.
I think. I mean, sometimes it's like the Larry Bird Magic Johnson. That's like a perfect example of this rivalry that it was just going to be impossible for them to be pals when they're trying to beat each other with every cell in their body. And you listen to them talk, and they're constantly like checking the box score in the paper the next morning. What did Magic do? What did Larry do? And but they became at the end, very good friends, and it was cool. Like when Bird retired, Magic showed up, and then to see how they interacted on the Dream Team and the Olympics, that was just, I don't know, beautiful to me to see two brilliant
Great
athletic
competitors, yeah.
warriors recognize they're the same.
Right, yeah.
And um, I don't know, that stuff is really interesting to watch. But it is difficult when you're both competing doggedly for the same prize. You're not going to be hanging out
No.
necessarily.
You maybe have some mutual respect in a way, but not
For sure. Oh, there's plenty of.
yeah, right.
I think the mutual respect thing is
There's no
definite.
question.
But if you listen to those press conferences, when one would beat the other, right after, they were about a death's door. They were so destroyed and distraught. So I think that's difficult. That's difficult. I think you see it in the NBA now. They're pretty chummy, but so many of them grow up playing on these
together,
same
yeah.
national teams and things like that. Was not a thing.
Kids are now playing since they're 6 and they're playing together through the NBA.
Yep. But and heck, even like I remember older baseball stories where that World Series money for a lot of them that was real huge money. Like it'd be as much as they'd make during the season.
Right.
So you did not. Anybody who was vying for that was definitely the enemy, and so there was no palling around, schmoozing when you're at first base.
Yeah. I always love seeing that when I'm watching sports on TV, especially professional sports. Or I guess anything if you're watching on TV, seeing opposing players, smack each other in the shoulder and laughing, or like in football, someone knocks the crap out of someone and they pick them up with a big smile on their face. Like, it's just kind of part of that. I mean, again, like you said, not every rivalry is going to have that. Every players. I mean, there's certainly players we hear about that just they can't stand one another. But I really enjoy seeing that because it brings a human aspect to spectators watching professional sports, and also to see that yes, it is the highest level of competition, but they still have respect and play with one another and make it fun, which is what we want to maintain.
Might be a little easier to do in baseball or basketball than it is something like football or.
Although I see it in football a lot, like
or even a straight up like combat sport.
Oh, well, you don't really see a lot of that. This one may be either just ironic or pointless, but since we talk about not putting our identity in our our role or our job, when you stopped coaching and switched to sort of what you're doing now, where you have a lesson here and there, you do what we're doing, but when you stopped being the coach of a team, was there a mindset shift or any identity crisis?
No.
Mini one there. I figured you were involved. You were involved enough by then, but
well, I probably should have stopped a little sooner. At that point, like I was missing stuff my kids were doing. Kids were a game changer. Like if I hadn't had kids at that point, I would have. I think I would still be fine coaching, but I was definitely distracted, not what I needed to be, and so I wish I would have stopped probably 1 year sooner than I did. But no,
no identity crisis.
No identity crisis, because this is definitely like a form of coaching.
Sure.
That we try to help other people have the best performance possible, their best lives possible, and learn how to help, so they can learn how to help other people do that. This
is one on coaching and culture. What's one thing you wish every coach understood about building trust with their team?
You have to be honest and vulnerable as a leader. Otherwise, they'll...
And vulnerable how?
Let them know that you make mistakes and clearly articulate your reasons for making decisions, being honest with those conversations.
Yeah.
I think avoiding the hard conversation or not following through on what you say you're going to do, that will kill the whole thing. And it may be a conversation you don't want to have.
Yeah.
I remember when you got hurt and Janet Pressler filled in, and then you came back. I had to have a conversation with Janet, and she could have very well, but we won while I was in there.
Yeah, She's great.
But it didn't require me to have a long conversation because, one, she was just such a stud person that she understood completely, and was happy for you.
She was always so freaking supportive.
Back. But I think that's trust is everything. And the second they don't trust you, it's over.
I mean, when I think about any time I had a negative experience with a coach or just in my sport in general, it was almost always around like I don't know why that happened. Like whether it was because I didn't play one game and I didn't know what the reason was, or coach treated somebody a certain way. Like I think you and I've talked about this a million times, but like coaches are doing their best. They're trying to keep their job in many cases, right. Provide for their families. But a lot of the times that I felt the most frustration was when I was like, I don't know why that happened. And you either can't get a clear answer or the coach thinks they don't owe you that answer. And I think that's a lot of that. That's hard to have those conversations sometimes, or to tell your player, she's back and she's,
right.
We're better with her back than we were with, even though it worked out well. That's a hard conversation to have, but it's whether or not the athlete knows it at the time, it's so much more valuable.
A great example of the opposite is like when Drew Bledsoe got hurt and Tom Brady got put in as a rookie, and they were winning.
Yeah.
And Belichick had to have that conversation with Drew Bledsoe, he's going to keep playing.
Right.
And that's and you could tell, like, if you've seen any of those documentaries, and I mean, I remember I was watching it. Drew Bledsoe did not like how that went at all. Now, he did his best to be a good team guy.
Yeah, that's hard.
But it was a lot to deal with for everybody concerned. And that's just, if you're going to be the head coach, you have to, that's what you sign up for. And I mean, there were plenty of times where I would rather not have this conversation. Sure. But it's not going to go away. The issue is always going to be there. You might as well just deal with it.
Air.
Yeah, just deal with it.
Yeah. What's a failure that ended up being your greatest teacher?
I remember for a long time, I thought our coaching was too sideline centric, like a lot being dictated, controlled, governed by the coaches. And we had lost in the state finals in 5, which is just
brutal,
awful loss, which I always took very personally. And I just didn't, it was my fault that we weren't prepared for that. And so I'm, spent the whole off season self-examining, and was around the time where Hugh McCutcheon was coaching the men's national team in the Olympics, and his in-laws had been attacked. His father-in-law was killed, and he missed 3 matches. And he was asked at a press conference after his team still won the gold medal if he was worried about not being there. And his answer was unforgettable for me. He said, "No, we train so that they don't need me." And that was just like the last straw. It was like, we are changing how we train, starting like right now. And I remember talking to the, 2 former players who were coaching with us, Sarah and Katie, and they were like, as soon as I kind of like laid out what I was thinking, they was like, couldn't have been more into it. Like let's go.
Yeah.
Super excited.
Like, what were some of those things? Like, what was different?
Really creating an atmosphere where they were empowered and it was their show, and much less about us dictating what they were going to do every day. And I remember, I had read something about purposely injecting chaos into practice so that they were very comfortable with when things fell apart. Well, by the very nature of injecting chaos, that means you're just stepping back and letting them deal with it. You can model like how to handle it, but just kind of constantly creating situations in practice where they took the bull by the horns, and that's what we wanted. And I think that really, that team was loaded, really good. But watching them do that all season was just an unforgettable experience. And I'm sure I told this example before where I like goofed up the lineup and between sets, and I didn't even have to do anything. They just immediately saw what the deal was. All right, we'll run this, you run that, here we go. And they just didn't miss a beat. And I can still see them doing that. It's just I don't know, very powerful moment, because that by then that was like the fulfillment of everything you want as a coach, where you just see these people like it's their thing, and letting them run with it. It was just so much fun to watch them do that. So that was I'll never forget that Hugh McCutcheon interview and how impactful it was on me, and it really gave me the courage to relinquish control. And
when I think to thinking about a drill in practice where if it's not good enough, do it again, kind of thing, where coach determines if it's not good enough, do it again, or if you let the players decide if they were satisfied with that. I know for me, I'm way more inclined to say no, I'm still not satisfied, let's do it again, with a better attitude than when coach says not satisfied, do it again. I think that creates that environment of making yourself level up as the player and recognizing what you are or are not satisfied with, and your team as well, to either see you be the leader and say, like, if I'm thinking about a hitter and defense covering, the hitter says no, I'm going to do it again. That shows their team what they now expect of themselves and how to hold them accountable. And I think that does create that environment of like self-expectation, regulation.
It's that example is much more powerful than some dictate from the coach. No doubt. The whole idea of we're all in this together so that they don't need you. Like that's how you want to coach. Period.
Did you ever have any superstitions? Well, you don't seem like the type.
I never did that. Here and there, maybe if someone I was coaching with or playing with, they may have, here, let's do this. I'm like, all right. But I just never. Now that's not a sign of mental strength or weakness.
Sure.
I mean, they're unbelievably accomplished, great performers who had serious superstitions and did not waver one bit. So I'm not downplaying them at all. Like, I think they can be a part of a routine that works, and pre-event or whatever that kind of gets you in the right mode to perform.
I guess there's like the pregame kind of routine or things you do to prepare versus just like, gotta wear this pair of underwear, gotta wear those socks, whatever that is.
Yeah, but they are
100%.
And I mean, it's not like they're mentally weak performers,
right?
They whatever, wear the same hat in practice or after practice, whatever. Like that.
By all means.
Yep.
Do it works for you. I don't want to say it was like Andy Bentley when I played club with her. I think my mom was saying she had to have like a certain number of like berry flavored propels in the cooler, like ready to go. Like that was her thing, and she had to have 2 on the bench, and then she had to know that there were like 4 backups in the cooler or something really stupid like that. I don't think I ever had anything big. I mean, I had similar like pregame handshakes with various teammates over time, or things that I would do for like a year and then I would forget about it, and then new season starts and come up with something else. At a period of time, I had a certain T-shirt I had to wear during warm-ups.
Then when it loses its mojo, you got to find another one. Yeah.
Didn't work like I thought it did. I like if you could go back and tell your younger self one thing about confidence, what would it be? I mean, I think about I think for me, I always thought I had to like exude confidence for other people to see, when the reality is that doesn't really impact you. Like, I think I always felt I had to look confident or appear, which is sure. I mean, spectators like to see confident athletes go out there and play, but it didn't impact my actual inner confidence. Like trying to look confident, like I'm cool and everything's fine, versus I actually am confident, was 2 different things. And it wasn't until I decided that, like, I mean, relating back to our conversation, was like, only I can decide when I'm confident. Only I can decide what's going to make me actually believe in myself versus just thinking like, I don't know. I think I thought you had to have this certain like persona to actually, and that would just turn you into a confident person, versus the trust and the training it takes to practice things that make you actually confident in yourself. I guess that's the better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm whatever from body language, is a powerful thing, and I do think there's something to
Fake it till you
chin
make
up,
it. Yeah.
shoulders back.
Yeah. As we both sit up a little bit.
Right, that's right. But confidence can't ever be based solely on that. Obviously, preparation
Yeah.
is a great foundation to promote confidence, but also carrying yourself a certain way. I mean, it is infectious. You can help. Like if you're standing over there,
Oh,
shoulders
100%.
slumped, head down, that's odds are that's going to spread.
In that video, I think it was a UCLA basketball player, or at least their jerseys in the video. Recalling back, the player's walking on the court with his head down. The guy walks up and picks his shit up. It's like, you want to have a teammate like this. It does. It matters.
Yeah.
And like, and I think that's not only proving that like you want a teammate who's going to do that for you, but that your teammates see.
Mm-hmm.
They see what your body language looks like, and they can see when you're down. And I think it's just that to me was such a multifaceted. Like,
that was a heavy moment.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think your confidence can't just be based on fake aura.
No.
But I do think how you present definitely can help your own confidence be buttressed, as well as kind of send a message to everyone around you that, yeah, we're good.
Yeah. No problems here. Tell me about a time you got tough feedback that stung but helped you grow. Mine wasn't necessarily feedback from a person, but when I was pretty new in my job, fresh out of college, we took one of those DISC assessments, the DISC, whatever. And if you haven't taken one of those, it basically asks you, 50 or 100 questions, and the instructions are like, answer this as fast as possible. Like, don't think too deeply. They want to know like your gut reaction to things. And at the end, it spits out like a 10-page, like basically biography about you and who you are as a person. And I remember it was the first time I ever saw something written like Caroline is, that wasn't like me describing myself maybe. And it called me out for all of these things. It was like, Caroline is so, like, it basically said that I'm such a control freak that I'm willing to always try to convince others that I'm right, because I need my thought to be my outcome. And it said that I was like quick to make decisions without always putting deep thought into it. Like that I was always trying to convince others to believe what I believed or to think how I think.
Pushy.
That's the one. But basically, I mean, that was kind of how I kind of read it as like, Caroline doesn't really have her shit together, because she's like, I think the one that really got me the most though was the suggesting that I sort of may make rush decisions just to make a decision rather than putting proper thought into it, which sometimes I still do that. But seeing it in words was like, oh, I mean, the number of times I audibly out loud when I read that was like, oh my god, oh, okay. Like it was almost like nobody else needs to see this. It was way too telling of me, but it was helpful because it made me like sort of
reassess.
Yeah, it made me sort of like confront these things. Like I think the fact that when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, was admitting to myself that what I kind of thought was probably actually kind of true. Like and it made me a little more thoughtful about trying to always convince people of what it is that I think is best, or trying to make it like, I'd still prefer to make a fast decision than like a long drawn out one. Like I tried on 5 wedding dresses, I picked one that was good to go. I saw one venue, yep, it works. Like I like to just sort of check done things, but I also recognize there is a time and a place where that may not be the right method. Although it was interesting when I took that. So I was probably, when I took that one, I was just out of school, unmarried, no kids, obviously. And then I took it again like 8 years later when I was now married, a little more, adulting, had kids. And it was amazing how a lot of my attitudes about things shifted in a big way based on, and I don't know if some of it was just my evolution as a person, whether I was married or not, if it was just a matter of time. But I also know that I think a lot of the things that were important to me probably came through on that test. And it was very glaring how some things were like complete opposite.
For me, I think when I was first coaching, and when I was a young coach, definitely did not have a evolved sense of who I was as a coach or what I was trying to accomplish. I was too volatile, and I can remember during a volleyball game, and I was exploding on the sideline somehow. Somebody made a mistake, and I remember the look on this player's face, and she looked over at me just pretty terrified. And I can still see the look. This is a long time ago. And I just thought to myself, I am not helping these kids in any way. And it was all my ego, my fear of failure, my inability to control myself. And it just was gross and wrong. And so I really started to work on managing that. I was not great at it for quite a while, but I got better and better anyway. That was embarrassing. Like when I think back now, it's really embarrassing. And some of the things I did were just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I sometimes I didn't have an assistant, especially in volleyball. I'd have one here or there, but I definitely needed somebody to like be tapping me on the shoulder. You need
Can't
to
do that.
get a hold of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think if I'd had that, it would have helped me sooner. But that's where, as coaches, we need people that we trust to offer insights into how we can be better and, point out our weaknesses. Hey, look, this ain't working.
Yeah.
And you have to, being willing to surround yourself with people like that is really important. Because otherwise you just keep making these mistakes and you have massive blind spots. And, it's, I'm grateful for the assistant coaches I had because I had pretty much everyone I had was willing to do that. And
did you
goodness.
ask for it, or were they just a personality that would do it, or you had a history with them that made them comfortable? Like, what do you think it was?
We had conversations where, look, like, you know more about this than I do. When it was volleyball, like, for sure. And anything I'm doing, like, and it was, honest. I wanted to get better and learn, and I trusted them. But even after I had learned a lot more and I had a lot better sense of what I was doing as a coach, period, I had people coaching with me who were willing to do that. But plus, I think I always wanted strong people working with me.
Yeah.
I knew they were going to help provide the best experience for the kids. They were going to help me be better. They're more interesting, just to be selfish about it. So, when I look back at all the people I get to coach with, I'm just super grateful that I had so many excellent, outstanding people.
I think it's kind of that age old, like, you don't never want to be the smartest person in the room kind of thing, like with who you surround yourself with. I think people think that sounds like the achievement, but every time, like, the people that you surround yourself with in anything, not just in that specific coaching situation, your friends that you spend your time with are going to help shape who you are, how you think, how you respond to things. And like you said, having the right people in your corner to, have that insight, maybe call you out on things, or say, hey, I noticed this, it's not really working so well. Or to say, hey, I noticed that this is a really positive change and I can see how it's beneficial. Like, I think those are really important people to have in your life, that even when it's a hard conversation or it stings you a little bit, that they just want the best for you.
And I think if you really care about the people you're serving, as players, whatever, why wouldn't you want to have as many great people around them as possible? So I liked watching those coaches work with those kids. Like, it was awesome to watch. I was, blessed beyond measure, for sure. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unbound Performance Podcast.
Your support helps us continue to build our community. If you're enjoying this content, please like, subscribe, and share.